so far?
It was heavy. It was
For real?
the first chapter really gets you into it in like an uphill kind of way. Yeah, I was assigned some of Equiano's text when I was in undergrad, but I didn't read that part, you know?
Me too.
Oh, so you guys have both read the, like, his narrative before?
I was supposed to be, but I didn't read any of it. I'm real honest with you.
So, like, what were the themes that, like, they taught it to you guys versus, like, how you guys are reading it now?
Oh, that's a good question. I can't answer that.
Well, I was assigned it in my rhetoric of contact and conquest. So, you know, the obvious, you know, theme of, you know, the middle passage, but what they don't talk about how Equiano was like a foot soldier, like the social part, like becoming acclimated and what it means to be a white person's buddy, handmaiden. That was all very interesting. The heartbreak when you don't fully fit in. You're just an Anglo-African American, I think the term they use.
Dude, I think we should do like an icebreaker before we start, or like a Frozen and Thorn before we start the meeting. I don't know how to jump right into it, you know.
Oh, sorry. I was trying to just talk while you were doing your thing.
It's okay. It's okay. I'll idea. Are you down?
Yeah, I'm done.
Yeah.
Do you guys know any icebreakers besides like Roses and Thorns?
We can do just like one thing you've laughed at, or the last thing you laughed at. I like that one.
Oh, one thing. Okay, one thing you laughed at.
Yeah.
I don't want to go first. Someone else go first.
I love how we're just all suffering, like no one can think about. Well, I'm around like a lot of amazing, funny kids, so I've been laughing. And then right now, I think my cousin was talking about how I was telling her like, oh, when you get older, you should you have to get a job so you can eat. And she's like, I'll just die. And I don't know why that made me really laugh because the way she said it. I know it's very dark, but it was just funny. So that's mine.
Oh, man. So, I don't want to, I don't have anything funny right now, but you using like the term dark to describe something bad.
Yeah, I know.
I think like we should collectively like call these things out and like work on not doing them anymore.
Yeah, that's true.
I've been thinking about this like a lot. I like how like I wanted to call a situation that happened between like Wanda and us like dark, but it's not like dark. It's like, you know, unfortunate like tragic thing or whatever. But you know, just like, you know, using like, you know, better constructive language to counter, you know, racism and white supremacy.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah.
Okay. I can accept that challenge as well.
Yeah.
I still can't. Oh, no, I still can't think of something that made me laugh. What about you, Emily?
The last thing I can think of, I was watching ADD's Great Taste. You guys watch that? It's a YouTube channel, All Deaf Digital, started by Russell Simmons. He has Black comedians on the channel, and they debate what the best thing is. So, for example, best video game character. You know, they're comedians, so some of the stuff they say is funny. So that's the last thing I can think about. I was watching it last night.
It's funny. It made you laugh.
Not like ha ha ha. This is gut. Oh, my gut hurts laughing so much. Funny, but like a little, you know. Okay, that resonates with me. Funny.
Yeah.
So.
The last time that made me laugh is probably like a Twitter meme or something. So that'll be my answer. That'll be my answer. So you guys ready to talk about the Delectable Negro?
Yeah.
Oh wow, I don't have a coffee.
It's okay, babe. It's okay. All right. Does anyone want to start? Because there's so much that is just so much that Quano. Well, how do you say his name? How have you guys been?
Equiana, that's how I
Oh,
heard it.
Equiano. Okay, yeah. Equiano. Yeah.
I think there's one line in the forward that I would like to share that'll bring us into the text a little.
Yes, yes, yes.
It's like the second to last sentence in the forward. I think one of his friends is writing it on his behalf, Patrick Johnson. It goes, as we partake of it, may we think of Vincent sashaying through our digestive tract, providing us with nutrients for the soul, but also giving us little heartburn along the way. So I thought that was a perfect precursor for like the book.
Yeah.
So.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is so. I really appreciated the forward because it lets us understand that like he didn't get to finish his book, but like a lot of people understood the importance of this book being created and like released to the public for public consumption. And I just think that's really like sweet that they finished this book for him. But I think maybe we go over some of the stuff we highlighted, because those are like the easiest things that we can pinpoint that like stood out to us, or just something that's like on our mind about the book, about chapter 1 that we just want to throw out.
Okay. Well, the first thing, and then the intro or chapter 1? Let's do.
Yeah, we should do the intro too.
Oh, okay.
Because the intro is pretty dense.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, let me see if I have anything highlighted from the intro. You have some stuff. Oh, yeah, I think this is really.
Yeah, that one was pretty intense.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Does anyone think they can? I've explained like. Does anyone think they can explain or the image that I just shown? You know, when I unpack how they felt about this. I think one of like the most profound things that this book like introduces us to, it's like the language of calling like slavery and the entire slave trade and racism itself, white supremacy itself, like a like parasitic relationship where like its victims are being fed upon by the perpetrators in like so many ways, and like the like brutality and the like brainwashing that occurs during this process is like very horrendous. And like shout out to like Vincent for creating such a like important piece of like work, because yeah, it's so much of this book, as like we'll like discover, contextualizes like modern society. And yeah, like anyone want to add to that? I have like any interesting thoughts?
I do. Something that stuck out to me is the image is like split in the middle. On one half, you have, just for lack of a better term, Black bodies depicted as savage because of they're only wearing loincloths. On the other side, you have these decorated men, and I think it begins in the discussion of how Europeans pointed fingers, but they're the cannibals. They're the ones that aren't wearing any clothing.
Yeah.
And that's telling in the first chapter. They begin to discuss that with the interrogator that they have in the first couple pages.
Yeah.
But yeah. I highlighted also the knife and the phallus are interchangeable signifiers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which introduces us to that slavery involved a lot of what Vincent calls homoeroticism, which, just to simplify it, I contribute that just meaning like, you know, sexual acts the sexual acts and against like the victims of slavery, whether that's like black men, black women, black children being raped, brutalized, or sexually assaulted, and other thousands of ways that they were during this time. So I think that's what homoeroticism. So if you guys want to like give your definition, what you guys think that means, or
Yeah.
how you guys have yeah.
I feel like it's, yeah, like it is this libidinal, is that what they call it? The libidinal kind
Yeah.
of and I think they talk about how kind of like everything is libidinal in a way when it comes to relationships between white and black people, and
Mhm.
how like the white man projects this idea onto black, especially black men, of
Mhm.
this kind of like savage person that isn't a like how we were talking about how Elliot Rodger was like talking about how he was such a gentleman, and
Mhm.
it's almost like in the role of like white men see themselves in the role of becoming this gentleman, that
Mhm.
they shed their like innate savagery or something like that, that is like this carnal thing. And I think that they project that onto black people, and they think that black people still have that. And it goes into all these other things when they talk about black people when it comes to like being better at like music or like sports and things like that, which are all like things that the body does.
Mhm.
Even though you could definitely say that it's not just a body, but whatever. Anyway, like I feel like it's this idea that they see black men as almost like the primitive man, and
Yeah.
they project that idea onto them.
No, 100%. Like
Yeah,
after we
but it's also
unpack,
like a sexual thing too, because it's like,
it's a hypersexual, and I
yeah,
would add violently sexual,
yeah,
like, feast upon a black body, as we will spend probably months unpacking, depending on how long it takes us to finish this masterpiece of a book.
yeah. Ebony, what do you think about the like homoeroticism idea?
Racism. I was drawn to I want to understand further actually the connection between homoeroticism and cannibalism in the introduction. Like that was the part where I should have reread, but there was a couple gray areas, and he makes a connection seamlessly, but I'm still not fully there.
Me
Actually.
too.
I have underlined. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just saying maybe we're a bit too early, but go ahead.
It says it serves as a reverent for a large set of same-sex desires and intimacies that include romantic relationships or romantic friendships between men, including incest, blah, 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 blah. But yeah, I don't know what to do with that. I guess because the subject matter is so foreign to me.
What page? What page is that on? Is that it?
The heading starts on page 14.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm stuck, in other words. Yeah, I'm like, comb that out a little bit, so to speak.
Oh yeah, okay. You said my study emphasizes homoeroticism over homosexuality. Did you see that line, or was it someone? Oh, okay. So yeah, I just think he's trying to like get people to understand that this is not just like what you would perceive to be like regular like homosexual activity being like like just man on man, or is that what homosexuality means? I'm sure that's what he's trying to get at. This is not just like like same sex people like attracted to each other and forming these like parasitic relationships. It's like probably everything involving the slave trade like has some kind of like sexual component to it, like whether that's like when they're like observing like their slaves and they're like looking at like how strong they perceive them to be and like looking at their muscles and say yeah he's gonna be a good field worker, or yeah this one's gonna be good at this job, like I think he's emphasizing that there's a kind of sexual like desire behind that.
Okay, that's clear.
But I don't know if I'm doing a good job of unpacking that word.
Well, I feel like we're all just like processing it. So it doesn't
Yeah,
have to be like a perfect understanding.
yeah. But yeah,
I agree. I think it's really interesting the difference between that homosexuality versus homoeroticism. I think it doesn't even have to do with like because it's I feel like homosexuality is it's obviously like being attracted to someone, but also like being attracted to them as a human and
mhm.
like someone that like you seeing them as a full human and wanting to be in whatever a sexual or romantic relationship with. But like this homoeroticism is not even like seeing them as a human form.
Yeah,
It's
he does
almost like this
an
like
object. He uses the word.
yeah, this objectifying lens where it's like you don't even want to learn about them as a fully formed human. It's almost like you just want to project all of these desires onto them.
Yeah. The questioning that if they have a soul is something up in the air during that
Yeah.
interaction.
So,
Yeah.
so I just stumbled across a really like I'm just gonna read the line. It's on page 13 at the bottom. And it reads, in part, the subject of cannibalism has been unspeakable for Black men because of the homoerotic implications of such experiences. Kara Walker, commenting upon European and white cannibalism, has observed that there's a little bit of masochism, so much love and hate involved in eating something, to kill something and eat it. It's very sexual, very sensual. The consumption of Black fat flesh often took place in the context of incestual plantation dynamics. Uh, from what I understand, the word incestuous to mean is just like a really like unbalanced relationship, which of course that what slavery was. It was a huge like power balance because you have a slave just like seen as an object to be consumed in various ways versus a master who we will learn probably seeing himself as a god of some sorts due to
Yeah.
the deification of themselves, as we will learn Christianity tends to create and these slave masters.
Mhm.
So
And then there's auto-cannibalism, which I underlined. It's in chapter 1 though.
oh yeah, I know what that means.
The
I know what
context
that
of
means.
the plantation.
Yes.
Wait, can you
So
guys go over that? Because I don't have the book with me and I don't remember that part.
okay, so like I literally just found it. It's on. It says page. I found something that says right there on page 18, and it says other kinds of arts oh yeah. Okay, so auto-cannibalism or self-consumption involves people consuming themselves voluntarily or through external coercion. In many instances, the cultivation of literal and emotional hunger in the slave produced the opposite effect. So
Wow.
yeah, so like we learn in chapter 1 about all the instances of slaves being forced to eat various of their body parts. For example, in the Caribbeans, they would like chop off their ears, and
Yeah.
broil them and force the slaves to eat it as a form of punishment, which is, of course, horrendous.
Yeah. And
Um,
and the whole idea of just like hunger as a tool of like subjugation in general is just super it's it's just horrible like
yeah,
when you think about like really what actually physically like hunger does to you and in terms of your mind
yeah,
and to be like forced to not eat for so long and then be forced to eat your flesh or the flesh of someone similar to you, someone you know. I think that whole idea of the full and satiated slave master with like the starving slave, and yet the master is still like cannibalizing the slave is really interesting. It's almost like this unattainable, like they'll never be able to fulfill that greed, and
Yeah,
that sense of like just wanting to consume outside of themselves someone else, whatever, I don't know what's inside them that makes them feel so like unsatiated, or if I don't know if that's like a word.
Yeah. That brings up, I just looked up hunger as an institution. I didn't find anything interesting, but I think that's where you're going with that. On one end, you have producers, which are the slaves that are born and they have flesh, and the masters eat them, and the consumers, who are the masters. And there's a part in the book that I'm just going to find it. It says something about why the slave masters did that, what sort of things it enforced. And it points to what Swa said recently about deifying. I'll find it. It's underlined somewhere. But that also reminds me of the tour that one of the authors took, and how he had to challenge the tour guide when he said that slaves are fed.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Yeah, we would definitely should
talk about that. So, Vincent like takes a trip to a plantation where the plantation tour guide is presenting the slave master as like a godly, kind slave master who kept his slaves, quote unquote, like well fed.
Yeah.
But Vincent, like, challenges him on many occasions, notably saying that like, and like due to like capitalism and slavery, it would have been like most beneficial for like slaves to get like the bare minimum of food and be expected to produce maximum labor. And he tells that to the plantation tour guide, and that makes the tour guide like really uneasy because he's probably never been challenged in this way. And that's really dope. I think it's a really dope part, like really dope that, it's a good example of like when you see like, racism and white supremacy like manifest in your real life and you have the knowledge and ability to call it out, you do that. And he shows us, how to do that with what
Yeah.
It's really great. So you might want to add to it.
And it brings up a question: who's telling the story, and how much will the line of inquiry go, depending on the person telling it or witnessing it? That's a relationship that's brought up, I think, at the end of the introduction or the first chapter, where they're talking about an African country. I believe it was a Gambia. However, they went before an interrogator, and they were talking about how they witnessed cannibalism, but it was thrown out the window, so to speak, because of it. It takes me back to the picture with the split image, where we're not cannibals in terms of Europeans. We're not cannibals. The people with the loincloths do that.
Yes. The savages.
And it's pure irony.
Yeah, I've been thinking about that a lot, just in general, about the stories that we tell ourselves as a society and how it perpetuates generationally, and almost how it produces like people who are really just comfortable with the narratives, because it just helps them like sleep at night, and any interrogation of it is just met with so much hostility. And this idea of like never wanting to really understand the nuances, or just like the really like horrible things that have happened, because it takes away from this like fairy tale. And like I read a book that talks about how America is literally built on this, like there's like certain types of settler colonial countries that are just built on fairy tales, and that's how like they keep the settler project going, is constantly bringing this idea of like these special people that like, and I think that we're so brainwashed in this society that any even like Black people to an extent like don't really want to get into how deep it is and how it so like reverberates, because then it means how much agency do you really have if all of this is still in your language, is still in the way that our society is structured and stuff. It's really like kind of scary. But if we like talk about it, we can't move forward.
I would argue that everyone not aware, no, not I would argue, I would add to everything you said, totally like 100%. And I would add that everyone who participates in the fairy tale and refuses to like acknowledge the history of America, acknowledge the history of like the globe and the destruction and violence caused by people who classify themselves as white. Those are just people who are just refuse to admit that this is not like a democracy or like a any kind of like structured system that is not white supremacy racism. I think like everyone's a victim of white supremacy to an extent, besides the people in like practicing white supremacy. I think I have to say, we should say, and feel comfortable saying, and like, you know, become comfortable in saying, using this language.
So by not acknowledging it, can I pose the question, are we making our bed with our smallpox blankets, hoping to get a good night's rest?
Well, that was a super dope line. Yeah.
Like literally like.
And it's an infectious disease. Like
like racism, white supremacy is a poison. Like it really creates disturbed thinking to the point where like you think it's okay to own a human being and not only own them, but rape them and brutalize them and maim them and dismember them. So this is why we have to start unpacking it. And but I'm glad, you know, this book club is here, you know, it's Colonial White Supremacy. Or, you know, if we could change one person and put them on a path to like come up with solutions to fight white supremacy, then, you know, we're doing good work.
Definitely.
Okay, so does anyone have any more instances in the intro who wanna?
Yeah, I actually like something that I was interested in is, well, I'm trying to like extend the meeting time, but in the meantime, something that I'm interested in is like, you said it's Equiano, the different dynamics of like he was hanging out with this like younger white kid, and then the older like slave master or the guy who was like running this, like, and I'm wondering if we see like those instances of like those types of relationships, whether it be like in our media or in like white people that we know, like passing on. Because I thought it was super interesting that whole like he has one type of white relationship where it's like this, it's almost like this like weird like bond, but it's also based on like him forcing himself to assimilate. And then he also has this other older white man who's just like completely eroticizing him as a child. Yeah, so I was wondering if you guys like saw similar examples of that in like our media or whatever, in tropes that we've seen.
Well, I don't know. I can't name the show off the top of my head, but what's the show with Gary Coleman? He's like a small child forever, and like he's
different strokes.
Who like different strokes. I feel like that's a great example of that, where like, you know, these like white men find like a black object and like, you know, use that black object to like, you know, give love to and receive love, if you can call that love, you know, or like that create that. That's one example out of the many I'm sure that exists, because slavery really ain't go nowhere. It's just got different colors.
There's a part in the book that I would like to read that ties this all together. It says, Equiano understands well that only his usefulness in closer social proximity to affluent whites saves him from the consumptive fate to the common slave. And I can attest for that. Just like in my own relationships.
Yes.
Why I don't date whites anymore. I was looking for a certain, to be legitimized in certain spaces where I didn't feel legitimate, and that sucked. It did a lot to my, just like my inner workings, my soul.
Yeah, that's the confusion that racism, white supremacy creates. Like, and I'm so glad that you're like just talking, like saying it, using the language, and like sharing that with us, because it's so important. There's a billion people like under the thumb of white supremacy. Jeez.
And in that,
yeah,
one fails to recognize their own power. So I think that's something, self-empowerment is the opposite of, being legitimized by being close to white people.
Yeah, one thing that I've realized is the one thing that white people hate more than anything is when Black people do not acknowledge them. Like, it's not even about hating them, or if you just do something separate from them and not acknowledging their existence, I think it upsets white people or the white order so much more, because they really are predicated on this idea of them being like this benevolent father, and you always praise your benevolent father, and so don't even see them. I feel like that's that's how a lot of but that's what I was thinking about when you were saying what you're saying about that idea of self-empowerment instead of forcing yourself to assimilate into these hostile spaces.
Geez, Equiano, this is such a tragic story. We have this man masterfully conditioned to eventually be a person who tries to colonize other people, and I think that's the poison right there. That's how the poison manifests. That's how it spreads. It's you taking away a person's original essence, and you replace that with a colonized shell, and then that shell produces white supremacy and racism in so many ways, by spreading it, are teaching these poisonous ideas that white is fair, white is benevolent, white is holy, dark is beastly, dark is heathenism. It's really sad, and we should definitely we're gonna talk about how Christianity was used as this magical escape route for slave masters who because the way the Bible is used and was probably intended to be used is it's all not real. It's this is these lessons are not in the physical exactly, they're in this other realm. So if I am going to be punished for my actions, it's going to be in this other realm. It's not going to be right now. So I think that they use that to excuse a lot of things they were doing, on top of actually believing that Black people were savages and meant to be subservient to them. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. It did many more things to their mind to think they were gods, and I'm sure we're all going to talk about it.
I feel this wrapping up, but I have one more thing, if that's okay.
Yeah.
That's why I find that Nat Turner was such a powerful figure. You speak about the afterlife now. The ramifications of their actions are, often there. Are they in hell? Will they be, tortured by, the souls that they consume during their lifetime? But Nat Turner puts it in their face. And the reaction to that, they understood the power of his actions, his getting together his troops, so to speak, and murdering them back for
revolting, like revolting against the system, the brutal system that was eating everyone around him. And are you gonna? I'll let you continue. I'll let you go.
Oh, and another point adjacent was just that their reaction to Nat Turner, how they thought that by cooking him, maybe some additional power would be derived from that. Through that, I think that they acknowledged what had been done to them in a very sick Anglo kind of way.
Which, like, what had been done to them, which was being killed by the insurrectionists?
Yeah, the uproars. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I'm gonna look at some of the stuff I highlighted.
So I'm trying to like extend the meeting.
It doesn't have to like. I imagine it being a long meeting because I feel like there's so much to talk about.
I have time.
I don't trying to rush the meeting.
No, it's because it's like Zoom gives you 40 minutes for some reason, so it might kick us out. But if so, I will just like set up a new meeting. If you guys are down.
Yeah, you can just extend it, dude.
You have to upgrade.
Oh, okay.
It's all about the shmoney.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I want to read something I highlighted. It's on page 33 at the very bottom. And it reads, what the slave mainly fed was the master's sense of honor and his sexual appetite. After methodically butchering and cooking a male slave over a rolling open fire, one